So we're helping each other out. If a project comes along that we can't resource, we'll get one of our friends to help us on that, and the same thing other way around as well, which means we've got that bottom line, it's a bit more sustainable.
Yep.
But it also means that we're all educating the industry at the same time.
Right, hello and welcome to the Goat Pod. I think it's episode 9, I'm not sure. Is it episode 9? 9. We'll take it as 9. Here with Craig Pugsley and Luke Seddon from StudioFlow. Really looking forward to this conversation, actually.
Yeah,
you guys have come down from Bristol, hugely appreciative of that. But emerging platforms is going to be the theme.
Yep.
All of the different things that, as I just said before we went live, are kind of simmering under the boiling point right now, and which one's going to pop next. And we're going to talk about AR, AI, voice. I think is going to be really interesting.
Yep.
We've got Amazon Alexa as one of our bigger clients. And we just did some work with them with Alex from Glasto, which was wicked. And also I want to start with Bristol, because that's where you guys are based, it's where you've come down from. And what's it been like scaling a business over the last 18 months from not the centre of marketing and tech, which is London?
Yeah, it's been a challenge, it's fair to say, right? It has been hard. Bristol's got so much going for it. I mean, I've lived there for 9 years now. My family are there, we've moved ourselves. I come from Devon originally as well, right? So like getting out of that kind of cultural vacuum into somewhere where there's something going on is awesome, but I've always been around the southwest. But Bristol has got a real focus on creativity, innovation, and doing something a bit different. It's just kind of in the psyche. When I arrived 7 years ago, I was just pitching up in a little hotel room, right, while I was finding a house. I'd routinely see people on these like 2-layer bikes, little handmade bikes, tooling around.
Yeah, it's like the Victorian era.
Totally, man, totally, yeah. Wearing nothing but a pair of Speedos and a cheeky smile, just like one. And I was like, yeah, this is the place I can see myself living, And it actually, as it turns out, over the last 5 or 6 years, it's become a real kind of creative technology hub. There's so many tech innovator, kind of incubator companies going on there now as well. Loads of investment coming in. I used to work for Just Eat. We'll talk about that in a second. But obviously that's a huge office down there. Several hundred people, equal in size to Farringdon that they've got here as well. So a huge amount of investment. And there's a few other big companies now that have come to Bristol for very good reason as well. It's a challenge to hire in London. I've worked on for Just Eat on the other side of trying to hire great design talent because I'm a designer by trade, into London, and it is super hard,
and
super
keeping
competitive
them as well, right? Because the burn rate and churn rate in London tech jobs, especially, is incredibly high. Having worked at a tech business before this one, I understand how quickly people come and go in jobs like that, and it's quite scary. People constantly looking for new challenges. There's so many startups in London that you just flick from one to another. And I think in the design world and the tech world, that's probably the most highly dense, highly populated industry in London, especially East London. When it comes to the pros and cons of working out there, you've got the Clifton Suspension Bridge.
Obviously, it's amazing.
So there's your pro. What are the drawbacks? What are the things that frustrate you being a business owner out in the west of England?
The biggest issue, and it's just to do with the nature of our business right now, is about finding the work and finding the clients. Because it's a lovely community. It's really great. Everyone sort of knows each other down there, and that stretches outside of Bristol as well. There's a kind of community around it. But when you're working in emerging tech like we are, when you're a new startup founder studio where you're trying to get your message out and you're trying to talk to the right people at the right level about the right things, there's only so many people in that pool in Bristol. So that's our biggest challenge right now. That's why we're here. We're here for a couple of days up in London today, and we're doing this fairly regularly. We'll come up and we'll book meetings in, and we'll be discussing stuff. But of course, we can't afford, being a startup and because of what we're doing, to be coming up here for having a casual chat with someone, right? It's got to be a bit further on the sales cycle for it to be, for it not to be cripplingly expensive, frankly, for us to come and do this, right? So, that's the biggest drawback, is just the access to the right people to talk to and the right kind of discussions to be having. So
then that comes on to kind of why you were starting to get involved in the project, right? In terms of the marketing, getting to those people. Is that the role that you've kind of
so basically I come from a marketing background. I fell into voice. I bought an Alexa, gave myself a 24-hour challenge to try and build a skill before it arrived.
Nice.
I didn't think I'd be able to do it. Stayed up for 28 hours, and Amazon lost my Alexa. So I ended up having 8 days. Yeah, so I was like, this is amazing. And I actually live in Taunton, so it's a bit further outside of Bristol. Met Craig on LinkedIn, said, look, let's meet. And then, you know, quick hour conversation. It was like 3 hours. We approach voice from 2 different perspectives, me from a marketing perspective, and have a look at how it can be used within, you know, the marketing funnel, and Craig obviously with Just Eat and, you know, the product kind of side of things. So, yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot.
I've learned a lot as well, though.
Have you ever run businesses before?
No.
Is this your first kind of move into actually running a business?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do it. It's always been one of those bucket list things. So I've half written a book, obviously, like we all have, and that's going quite well actually. And I've always wanted to run a business as well. And it's not a control thing for me, but it's about, like, we call ourselves StudioFlow rather than being an agency.
Yep.
Because I've seen too many people, because obviously I know loads of people in the agency business, especially in Bristol, who do the boom and bust, classic boom and bust thing, you know, and I just don't want to be a part of that. I want to be trying to be a bit more responsible in the way that we grow our business. So, you know, calling ourselves a studio, making sure we're taking on the right type of work that's sustainable. You know, our business plan, the first goal in our business plan is to be sustainable. You know, just get that bottom line in place, so that we don't have to, you know, react super quickly, hire people, you know, fire people really quickly as well. We've got that stability in place. And I think one of the other things, like the second business goal, is to be spending 20% of our time on research. You know, I come from a research background. If you plug it in, turn it on, and don't really understand how it works, that's the kind of stuff I love, right? Like getting behind something that you don't really understand is always been a kind of passion of mine. So spending 20% of our time in the business on that, exploring what these technologies can do, it just gives me a big smile and keeps me awake.
I suppose that gives you a great opportunity for marketing as well, in order to educate. And I think you were talking about that before we went on air. Like, it's that education piece is really, really important in the place that you're positioning yourself in the market, which is things that people don't understand as much. So what the challenge is in telling people how things work and what things like AR and AI and voice are actually going to have an impact over the next few years.
So I think what we've learned is that voice, everyone's kind of got an interest in it, but they don't really understand what impact that's going to have. And truly, we kind of, you know, there hasn't really been that big killer app out there yet, and I think that it's kind of a difficult question. Sorry, you carry on, Craig.
It's super difficult, I think, for people to put what they do in the context of these new technologies.
Yeah.
And there's nothing new here, right? Like, we're not reinventing the wheel. Every new, fundamentally different technology has always had these challenges. People go, oh, it's amazing, you know, chatbots. Oh my God, they're going to. But you know, when you actually try and put the use cases onto that, like how are we going to implement this and how's it going to add value to our customers?
I think if you look all the way back to when the iPhone launched, and people go, oh, it's just a gimmick. You're going to have apps, but actually all you're going to use is the text and the phone. And then actually how that revolutionized how the whole society worked based on immediate and different functionality that people just never even believe was possible. Exactly that.
And it always happens with new technology. And it's about, so the challenge that we've got right now is a resourcing challenge, because we have to spend, you know, we have to be careful how much time we spend educating people on what's possible with these devices, and time actually doing profitable work for clients, projects. And we've had to scale back the amount of education that we do, frankly, because we're not a big enough team to be able to support that. And we've had to focus more of our time on the project work. So we're much more kind of picky with the business that we choose. And even at the initial kind of part of the sales cycle as well, talking to people and about what they want to do, we make sure that they've got a level of understanding that's already there, so that we can just engage with them, you know, at a more kind of concrete level straight away.
I think also over the last 8 months, we've had to be clever about this. So when we first went into meetings, we realised actually, right, so this is just the initial meeting to get everyone up to a certain level, right? Okay, instead of travelling to them, let's always do a Google Meet before we get someone up to a certain level, and then you know, because then we want to start the conversations. Then, as Craig said, kind of inspired by you guys, right, okay, let's start live streaming. And we did a lunch and learn with a company based in Bristol.
Great.
So then now it's like, and that was kind of our pitch, and there were some really great questions that came out at the end of it. So now I'm finding, when I'm having that first initial contact, it's like, oh, hey, by the way, you know, have a look at this. This is probably what we would be saying and pitching. And And that's had a really great response, actually.
Yeah, so from an education side, that's why we're doing the live streams. That's why we're going to be doing the video blogs. That's why we're going to be doing, bits of content on the website and stuff, because that's got great reach. And we only have to do it once, and everyone can then consume it, rather than these calls that we've had to. We've travelled up to London. We've spent, hundreds of pounds staying over here to have a conversation with someone where they're like, well, so what's Alexa then? How many people have got Alexa in the room? Like one person puts their hand up, It's just not viable for a company our size to do that.
Scaling has been one of the reasons that we started doing the video. We realized how many of our large clients over the course of the last 4 years had come from, indirectly or directly, from Aaron, Nick, or I, having talked to them or talked to someone. And it was literally 85% of our business.
Wow.
So we thought, okay, well, it's impossible to scale a global business based on 3 people talking to everyone. So the only way to do that is if 3 people talk to everyone, but one to many rather than one to one. And that was kind of another reason. We obviously talked about the first reason that we started vlogging, which was really to increase internal communication and then also drive new business. But there was also a part of it which was, how can we get the people that are central to the business talking to many people at the same time? And I think you're in the same boat. That education piece is so important. And if I look back 4 years ago, influencer marketing was at the same stage all these things are right now. And everyone's heard about it. Questioning the ROI, questioning the investment, questioning actually what it is. There's loads of different definitions, loads of different providers, but no one knows what the market actually looks like and what's best for them. And I think you're in a funny phase where over the next couple of years you're going to get very, very clear as to what people want. They'll understand what they want. That's it. And that's going to be, it's about riding the wave until you get to that point, and then people are going to be much more focused on what they're actually trying to achieve from the things that you're selling.
100%.
So let's dive into that marketing side of things, how you get to the consumer, because it is quite niche at the moment. What are the tactics? You said you were working on some live stream stuff. You're looking to get to audience through that.
Yeah, so it's mainly so it's the live stream. It's obviously, I had a brief conversation with Aaron before, and he sort of mentioned, hey, you are where we were when we first started. And we realised that actually we have very little time to kind of to get out to these people. Obviously, also being based in Bristol, so it's about getting content out there, live streaming. I mean, I'm just constantly messaging people in the sort of DMs on LinkedIn. It's trying to share stuff. I'm working on a kind of content strategy. I think definitely LinkedIn is our focus.
Yeah, it always has been for us. It's where the audience is going to buy. And they're also looking for certain different content, and they're happy to consume content if it's educational and interesting. But I think you do a very good job of interaction, which we're slowly getting better at, and giving back to the community in terms of interaction, but it's just so time consuming.
This is where I think we've got an interesting angle, because the voice community specifically, so we're emerging tech, right? So we'll cover all the stuff, but the majority of our work has been in voice, just because that's where people are paying. The voice community is really, really rich. Actually, there's some really great players out there, small shops like us, that are doing very similar kind of work with all the same kind of challenges. And we're very slowly coming to the point now where all of us are collaborating at the fringes of our work. So we're helping each other out. If a project comes along that we can't resource, we'll get one of our friends to help us on that, and the same thing other way around as well, which means we've got that bottom line. It's a bit more sustainable. But it also means that we're all educating the industry at the same time. So all of our work has that amplification effect.
That's really important. When we first started, we wanted other people to be great as well. So even if they didn't go with us, they still believed with influencer marketing after they did the campaign. Because the worst thing for us was, at that point, was there was a lot of bandits trying to make money out of influencer marketing early on, because it's a buzzword. There was money getting pumped into it. You could do a campaign, fail, but still get the money. And that was really negative for us in the first couple of years. Other people basically making a bad name for the industry. And we actually were happy when some other better companies came into the market, because we thought, okay, well, if we can push the bar up as a group, it's okay. We've been very fortunate to keep progressing up that kind of chart, but it's certainly something that I think most businesses find in emerging markets, is hoping that everyone pushes the bar up rather than one having to lead the way, and then if they don't go with them, it's a complete nightmare.
That is it. And the challenge we've seen is exactly that. Every agency that we've spoken to right now, every digital agency that's got traditional campaigns, traditional platforms, now all of a sudden can do voice. And you know that the experiences they're going to create are going to be subpar, and they're going to get paid for it as well.
What's
and
the sell?
So frustrating.
Why would people? Because we don't sell voice, but we have the biggest voice provider, tech in the world as a client, but we don't sell voice as a service. But why should we, or why should we be buying voice, or why should brands be buying voice right now?
It's the most accessible platform for your consumers. Simple as that. It's super easy to get on board. It's such a rich way of engaging with the brand as well. You can do audio, you can do, you can take your brand assets from another platform and translate them really simply into a voice experience. And it's just, humans don't like friction, right? We hate any kind of work. Even picking up a phone and just pressing a couple of buttons is friction, right? Gary Vee talks about this a lot. And the thing about voice is completely frictionless, especially with Alexa. It's ambient, it's everywhere. You got one in every home, every room in your home. All you need to say is, Alexa, do my thing, engage with my brand. What's the how much washing powder should I use for these sheets, right? Your brand is everywhere. It's completely omnipresent in a way that you just cannot get with any other platform and technology. I think the reason to get on it right now is because you can do things that no other platform can, and it's a race. It's an arms race.
It's a land grab.
It's a land grab in the same way the domain name land grab was around years ago.
As in requests.
So if we think about the number one use for voice, and it always has been actually probably for the last 3 years, is asking it a question, basically.
Google.
Yeah, exactly. What how do I find a job? How do I do this? And the thing is that it's brands that can fulfill those requests. So for instance, if I said, Alexa, how do I find a job? It would say, I don't know. But if Indeed decided to fulfill that, answer that question, immediately their skill is going to be enabled. Immediately they can then, would you like to, have a look?
Is there a reciprocal where people can find out questions that are being asked that haven't got an answer?
I think
because that's obviously incredibly powerful, right?
Yeah.
If there's a top search term that has 10,000 searches, but no one's ever had an answer, and then you can go and solve that. Like, how can you find that out? How can you work out what is worth having a skill for?
This is the challenge, right? And this is because Amazon and Google are both building these platforms, and they're effectively closed boxes. Right? This is the challenge. If you want to play in that space, in the voice search space, you're competing at a voice SEO level at that point, right? Which to try and get ranked, to make sure your content is constructed in the right way that it gets surfaced on one of these platforms. But you're completely at the behold of the platform vendor at that point. As soon as you create yourself a skill, a third-party app, a presence on that platform, you claim your intent, your domain name effectively, you can then do whatever you like, including all the analytics you're going to get for people that are asking for stuff you don't currently support. So the very first thing we say to brands is just get something on there, something meaningful, right, that you think is going to add value to your users, and we'll take you through a bit of a process to find that. But then once you're there, not only have you claimed the brand name, not only have you got that brand presence, so people are thinking about, ordering Pampers rather than ordering wet wipes, right, because that wet wipes are going to be served by Amazon, getting the biggest margin they can do, right? But if people are asking for Pampers directly, that goes directly to your app, your third-party skill. But it means that you get all that long tail of stuff, exactly as you say, that people are asking for that you don't currently support. That insight is completely invaluable. There's no other way of gathering that. And of course, you don't, with traditional channels, with the web, with your iOS or Android apps, you don't know what people want to do with your experience that you don't currently support. Right? People, they're on rails effectively. They're using the experience you've built for them. But with voice, they can literally ask for anything. It's a completely flat hierarchy of interaction. They can come to your skill and they can ask you for something that's completely off topic that you never thought of before. And that will pop up in your analytics. And if enough people say it, you can go, right, well, that's where we go with our roadmap. From a product creation perspective, that's my background.
Yeah, the data
it's gold.
that can be mined from that, because especially when we search with voice or say anything with voice, there's a lot more context rather than, if I'm Googling something, I'll probably just use a couple of keywords, but with voice, I'm there, I'll give it something a bit more context, I might add a size, a color in, just naturally, because it's just easier, because, obviously our thumbs are actually quite inefficient when we're on the phone.
Yep.
So from that perspective, I think also from fulfilling the consideration part of the funnel is where brands should be focusing on. Currently, we're seeing that brands are so focused on this conversational commerce aspect, because there's no checkout. All you have to do is say, would you like to purchase this? Yes. Add in a 4-digit PIN, and then suddenly something's been purchased. Rather than focusing on that, focus on getting people onto the platform and fulfilling the consideration part. So for instance, let's say, yes, okay, I might be able to buy my plane tickets through Alexa, but actually the value is when Craig and I are sitting, and saying, oh, where do you want to go on holiday? Oh, okay, what about Zambia? Oh, Alexa, what's the average price of Heathrow to Zambia in May? Asking that information and pushing people down pushing yourself down the consideration funnel, being there every step of the way. From a brand perspective, they're gaining all of that insight. They can link that to your account. They understand a lot more about you. And then from a user's perspective, you kind of then trust, by the results that are being given to you. Then it's like, well, you're going to go with that company. So
I think
Booking.com or something like that.
That is a great example of something that I think lots of people are quite scared of at the same time as being, and I think that's kind of what not the problem voice has, but in the same way as influencer marketing has a lot of bad press. And it's about separating out why people are posting the bad press versus actually what the functionality is. And voice has that constant, very much since Cambridge Analytica, has that constant data security problem and perception that they're just taking everything you say. And I think that's something that all the companies need to deal with very, very cleverly in the PR world, because that's what seems to be a blocker here.
So we talked about this yesterday on our live stream. So the NHS released a skill with Amazon recently. Absolutely fantastic, really great experience. It's going to genuinely help a lot of people. Another channel to the NHS website. I think the mistake that they made was not communicating the transparency of it. Okay, because you can guarantee that there would have been a very strict security policy in place privacy policy and security policy between Amazon and Google and the NHS for creating that skill. So that wasn't communicated well enough, and it meant that all of the press, the tabloids specifically, could just jump on that as a scare story, and then there you go. You got Alexa replaced my GP as a headline on the Metro, right? And it's just, yes, it's frustrating because that doesn't help anyone, and it's not a balanced view. But this happens with all new technology. We've seen the same kind of scare stories with AI generally as well.
Of course, they're going to take over the world.
Which is exactly. We're all going to be out of a job. But the nuance there that could have been conveyed with 1 or 2 lines on that press release to say, this is how the data is handled, this is what goes to Amazon, this is what never leaves the NHS servers. Like, yes, it's a nuance that the Metro might not have picked up, but the fact that could have been conveyed as part of the release plan for that product. So that's always part of our kind of content and marketing strategy for any new products that we're releasing for clients. That has to be part of it. What are the privacy concerns that your users are going to have, and we'll do research to find what those out before it gets anywhere near market. So we'll be able to address all those concerns.
But isn't the concern, the major concern is just listening to everything?
Yes.
But then you could argue that we've always sort of been listened to with the other platforms.
I'm in that boat, right? I believe that, ever since the dawn of the internet, we've been tracked everywhere. And there's loads of things on people's phones that they don't know, that the phone knows exactly where you are and who you talk to and who you were with and what you were next to. Like, it knows everything.
Sure.
So I think people are concerned about something maybe because it feels so intrusive because it's in their house.
It's a perception of it. It's this new device, this alien device that's in the house that can apparently sort of do everything. And I think that...
But having a conversation is a really human thing. So when you think your trust is being betrayed, that feels like a real human... You have a human reaction to that. Oh, I don't trust that thing anymore because I'm being listened to. Not just I'm being tracked. Because for me, like, tracking where I am, and having all these data points that are trying to correlate into my profile, that is a little bit abstract for me. I really can't get my head around that. But the fact
it's
that
useful.
I do.
Use for it, right? And
totally,
because I work in the industry of understanding data and understanding marketing, and actually I want things to, if they're going to market to me, which they are, I understand that everything is trying to sell me something. Then I want them to sell me the most relevant stuff. So if it listens to me and I talk about Liverpool every day, then I want it to try and sell me some Liverpool stuff, because otherwise they're going to try and sell me something else.
Yeah.
They're going to try and sell me something.
Yeah.
So accept that. Yeah. And if you can't get your head around the fact that Amazon, as the biggest e-commerce store in the world, is not trying to sell you something, then don't buy an Alexa, because that is all it is. It's a reciprocal into selling you something.
Yeah.
But if you accept that by buying that, it's only going to try and sell you good stuff, not that all the other stuff it's currently trying to sell you, which isn't relevant, because it doesn't know enough about you. That's why Facebook's so good. It knows so much about you.
Sure.
But people didn't start questioning that until Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah, that's
But really, it's been pretty obvious for a long time that they've been very smart in understanding exactly what you like, who you like, what you do, what you post. It's like the ultimate data mine.
Yeah.
But that was the moment where everyone just switched on their head and went, hold on, what's this doing, and how's that working, and is Apple listening to everything I say? And I think people believe that there's just thousands of people in a room in America just with headphones on, just going, Brian said this a minute ago, can we just serve him an ad?
What did he say? Oh my god.
Yeah, so I think also in the world of PC and the world of people try not to be caught out by saying things or being worried about what they say. They just believe that everything's getting recorded as well. Yeah. And that actually Amazon's just got reels and reels of tape of what I said last night when I was watching Love Island. Yeah. And they don't. But they're trying to listen to keywords and work out what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way that these systems get better. They have to be trained on data, right? And that's the reason that these services are listening to what you're saying and processing what you say, is because they're trying to get their services to be the best one in the market, you know? So I think the challenge there, though, is how the companies, it comes back to me about transparency. The companies being transparent to their users about what they're doing with that data, you know, when it gets deleted, what it's being used for, when a human interacts with it as well. Because I think that's the thing that isn't very obvious at the moment. You know, how much of this stuff is processed by machines to train the algorithm, and how much of it goes to you, to actual moderators, humans that have to listen to it and click the right button. Did it do the right thing, yes or no?
Yeah, I think it's Web 3.0, 4.0 maybe, where you went web, social media, and now you've got voice, or the Internet of Things, of which really the voice sits into. Yep. And at each juncture, each one of those points, it's known a lot about you, and it's had to train people to understand the privacy laws around it. When social media came in, you know, I remember so vividly 4.5 years ago when I went to go meet my girlfriend's parents for the first time. I told her mum what I did, and she was like, I don't know why you post on Facebook. Who cares about what you had for breakfast? Or why do I want to show the world that? Why do I want to allow people to look at that? And now the training has gone through, 4 years has passed, and now she's doing that. She's got a Facebook account, she posts fucking sunsets every single night. But that's people, it just becomes part of society. Yeah. And I think voice, I think you're absolutely right, has an opportunity in society probably more than anything ever before, because of its frictionless ability to interact, to be more normal, because people aren't looking down their phones, they're looking up at people, at things, and having a conversation with their mouth, which is what humans were meant to do.
The lovely thing, and we've done a few examples of this already, is where the brand can be part of a group conversation. So at the minute you interact with the phone, you interact with the website, and it's one-to-one, right? All of a sudden, by putting an Alexa in your home and doing something, building a skill for that, you could be part of a conversation that, like you was just saying, you know, you and I are talking, like my wife and I are talking about where we're going to go on holiday. We can be having a conversation, bring Alexa into that when we need to answer a specific question. It could then be recommending stuff to us as well. You know, that brand will be recommending as we're having the conversation. And that's where these devices will be going as well, because remember, they are like babies, they're like children right now. They're learning at a really incredible rate, but they're still really naive, really simple little entities. As their capabilities grow, and as they learn more about the world and how people interact, they'll be able to offer richer and richer experiences, and then brands can take advantage of that as well. So we must never forget, we're super early doors on this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we've done work with Alexa for a long time, but we did our first skill, I suppose, or request for a campaign with Alex from Glasto about 2.5 weeks ago. Yeah, we worked with Amazon so that everybody in the world, if they ask who won Glastonbury 2019, it says Alex from Glasto won, and it shows a photo and it replays his performance. Yeah. And it amazed me how fast they could add something and make it brilliant and seamless and write a script, and it's really, really interesting. And I think that's also going to be the great thing about voice, is that the platforms are actually quite easy to use and update and build, and it's limitless, like you said. But it is still simmering. When do you think it's going to go? When's it going to... What's the turning point? What are we missing right now that you can see and you go, God, when it can do that, or when a brand does this, or when something does that, then it's going to be great?
It's convenience. As soon as it becomes convenience, we forget about the privacy thing. And I think it's difficult to kind of envisage at what point. I think we discussed this today, weren't we, that there isn't going to be one necessarily killer app, but there are going to be a multitude of apps within different industries where actually this is now, someone who doesn't have an Alexa or doesn't have a Google Assistant is like, actually this is valuable enough. You know, I can do it. It's more than just a glorified timer, and you know, and I can play music on it. You know, it's when it's not going to. I don't think it's going to be one thing. I think it's going to be.
It will be a weight of a load of different, really valuable experiences that you can only get on.
For the reason that you just mentioned, that you can, you know, if you had an idea, you know, have an idea and then bring something to market can be done very quickly, because you don't have to worry about the visual aspects of it. You know, you can literally just go out there. You can learn quite quickly. You know, you can start off small, realize how people are using it, and then you can adapt very, very quickly. So, I don't think.
When's the tipping point? It's a great question. I don't think it's a technology. I don't think there'll be a feature that comes out for Alexa or Google that changes the world.
Because it's so simple.
Because it can do pretty much everything that people are still catching up with understanding what it can currently do, right? And Amazon are going massively big guns on the new features, like the Alexa connections that they've just announced a few months ago, where you can just you can have a service that has all access to all this data, and then you can write some sample scripts for how you want to interact with your customers, and then give it to effectively Alexa to figure out how to have that conversation with the user, which is fantastic, great piece of technology. Not great for organizations like us who are trying to create like really compelling brand experiences, but you know, let's not go there. The technology is incredible. So I don't think it's a technology piece. For me, it's all about value, and about when there is enough value on the platform that people go, people all of a sudden one day realize they can't live without it. And I think this very closely mirrors the way that the app marketplace for iOS and Android develops as well. You know, the very first range of apps were fart apps, right? They were jokes, they were novelties, they were the things the beer thing, right? Everyone, classic beer thing, right? Everyone remembers those, and you know, you use them once or twice, you show them off to your mates, and then you never use it again, right? That's exactly what's been happening with Alexa. The popular skills are the ambient sounds, they're the fart apps, they're the toy, the joke, novelty things right now. Those are the ones that are getting traction outside of the core features. But now we're moving into something else. Now moving into a productivity phase, which very closely maps onto what happened with the App Store.
And health and fitness as well?
Yeah, totally.
That's another big market. I mean, I've started using, I think it's called Body Coach, and it literally is just 15 minutes. There's only 7. You got range from intermediate to expert. 15-minute high intensity workout. I can just do it in my kitchen.
Where are you at?
With a physique like this, oh God, you didn't get that overnight.
So I've done it for 5 days in a row. Okay. I'm feeling better already. I used to run quite a lot. So.
And you're doing it in your lounge?
Yeah, I'm just doing it in the morning. You know, I work from home at the moment. Sometimes I'll go into the office, but it's great for me. It just, you know, it's a complete. When we're doing something like this, and it's, you know, I've got so much going on. I'm just sitting there, you know, trying to get business. I'm trying to build something. What's next with voice? And it's like just 15 minutes puts me in the right frame of mind. I can literally do it in my living room.
You haven't got to get anything ready. You haven't got to prepare for anything. No. You've just got to go, Alexa, open whatever, and then you're good to go.
Same with meditation and mindfulness. You know, that's just a quick 10 minutes. You can just say, right, turn that on. And there's quite a few different ones.
Sorry, these are only experiences that you could get with voice. Like, why? One of the first questions we always ask clients is, why do you want to do this with voice? Why is it better than just getting your iOS app and doing whatever on that, right? So that's where we start with our conversations. Why is this better on voice?
So there's 3 different things that we've kind of thought about, and we say to clients is, one, does it solve a problem? You know, so for me, when I first started building, I didn't even realise we had houseplants, and my housemate was going away. He said, look, can you water the plants every 4 days? And I'm like, okay. So I built just a simple time stamping skill. So for me, it was like, every time I water the plants, I can say I've watered the plants. It reminds me every 4 days, and I can ask it when the last time was. Then the second thing is...
How long does something like that take to build?
I mean, this was quite simple. It probably took me about maybe 2 days. This is when I just was learning myself, and I was and timestamping, I think, is something that is so simple, but actually it
very
has,
useful.
Yeah. So I mean, when I was taking antibiotics, just remind me every day. I think I did have one where I tried to only have takeaway once a week. So I said I've had takeaway, and I always know when I've had takeaway, but it's just kind of like
you
should have really done
terrible.
Yeah, I should have done a countdown really.
Yeah.
I used to work for Just Eat. Just full disclosure.
My favourite app until Uber Eats launched.
Yeah,
really?
God knows how much money I spent on Just Eat.
Oh,
I reckon, and I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure Just Eat have a top X customers where they're really trying to market to them. I reckon I was in that bracket for a good amount of time.
I couldn't possibly comment.
But like that app was completely revolutionary for how people were convenience, right? It was the ultimate convenience. I never lived in London before. I had no mates in London, and bang, Just Eat comes in, and the ultimate convenience to being able to have things delivered to your door.
And now,
anywhere.
all of a sudden, you can say, Alexa, ask Just Eat to reorder pizza, and it's done. Yep, okay, that'll be there in 20 minutes. That's what we built. That's what Just Eat has, you know? And the pizza's coming, and you say, hey, Just Eat, where's my pizza? It tells you, it's 10 minutes away, he's just around the corner, he's 2 miles, whatever. You know, that's the convenience, that's the frictionless part of it, you know? And that's where that value for organizations where they've got a business model like that is huge, absolutely huge. And it can only be done via voice.
Nice. So
the second thing would be time saving.
Yeah.
Okay. Is another thing that you should.
Well, yeah, that's like having a PA for everybody, right?
Yeah. So the NHS skill is a perfect example of this is where people thought, the whole replace my GP thing, that really annoyed me because it's not replacing your GP, it's just replacing the website. The idea behind it was for people that either elderly, blind, for whatever reason, can't access the internet, or it's very difficult, lazy as well, or maybe they're just that ill. Yeah. They could just ask Alexa, I've got this symptom. It can give a response, but it's from the website. The problem is that it's information, not advice. Advice is what's being thrown around, that Alexa's giving you advice. It really isn't. It's just taking something from a database and giving it to you. But it does save time,
Yep.
So that's the second piece. And I think the third piece, as we've mentioned before, is just ask a question. So if you're looking at getting into voice, that's where you start. So that's what that's our
answering questions.
Yeah. So sorry to just
no, of course. On that. And I think, for people listening, you guys obviously work in the space quite a lot. Amazon are a client of ours. But what, you've seen a lot of the different products. Like what's the product to have in your house? What do you have in your house?
I've got
You've got everything.
Absolutely everything. So a couple of years ago.
So as soon as you start speaking, they all just start speaking back to you.
Yeah,
they're
really clever though, because they don't do that. They figure out which one you're closest to.
They all listen, and then you're like,
all the blue lights light up. Yeah, so every room in my house has got the smart light bulbs. All the switches I've put gaffer tape over all of our light switches because you've got to break people's behaviour, right? They want to go and touch the button when they go into the room, so you've got to stop that. Got motion sensors everywhere, and then everything obviously has. I've got a combination of Google and Alexa's all over the place because I think both platforms bring different things to the table.
What's that?
So Alexa,
from a very naive point of view.
Yeah. So Alexa is more efficient. It's actually a more mature platform as well, I would argue, because it's been in the market for a few more years. So when I say to Alexa, simple things like, say to Alexa, turn off my lounge lights or turn my lights off, and it goes, okay, ding ding, lights go off. So the same thing to Google Assistant, hey Google, turn my lights off. It goes, turning 2 light bulbs off, ding ding, and then the light bulbs go off. And just that slightly longer interaction, just great. And because you do it so frequently, it just gets a bit long. And it's simple things like that I think are just more mature on Alexa. So that's why I've got Alexa.
And what Alexa do you have? Do you have the Echo Dot? Do you have the
all the above.
The tool one? What's that? That's just called the Amazon Alexa.
Yeah, the original one was the Echo,
and
the tool one.
And the one with the screen. Which is the new one, right?
Yeah, the Show, yeah. Now the Show's super interesting. So when Amazon brought the Show out originally, the Echo Show, they did that because they knew that voice is great, but there are some limitations to it. So you can't get people to choose from content, lots of search results. You just have to read them all out. It just isn't efficient. But if you can show them, and they can see, and they can go, oh yeah, that one, or number one, or they can just tap the screen. It's great, right? Really efficient. The other thing is
for 50 quid?
Yeah, now super cheap. Yeah, the challenge was they were really expensive to start with. So the original Show was up around £200, and this new device, the Show 5, a little 5-inch screen, really gorgeous little device.
Yeah, we've got so many in the office.
Yeah, £50. I mean, it's just insane, absolutely insane.
And they're doing the Amazon Echo for 20 quid, 25 quid?
£23 on the Prime Day. Yeah, and those are gateway drugs. We know that. People buy those into their home. They can have a conversation. They can be bought into the whole idea with it. Then they'll buy a smart light bulb. Then they realise they're listening to music.
Does Amazon do the smart light bulbs?
They do bundles of smart light bulbs, with Philips Hue or whoever. Yeah. And of course, Amazon own Ring, the sort of all the smart other connected home devices as well. So you can, from one place, you can get a front doorbell, you can get a connected camera, and then you can get the voice interface to interact with all those things, all from the same ecosystem as well. Really interesting.
Nice. So that kind of filters into AI, because it is AI in some ways, or it's learning as we go. We're talking about it being naive, being a child now, and God knows what it'll be in 5 years' time. I want to touch on this quite lightly and then move on to AR, because I think there's some really nice marketing examples of AR in the last few years. But AI, are you scared? Are you scared of where it's going and what it is and how it continually is becoming smarter than the human brain?
I was, when I first started building, just playing around. Then I did start to get a little bit worried because, talking to my friends, that's all they would say is like, Skynet, this is, you're part of the problem. And then I sort of met Craig, and I sort of understand that, okay, it's not as, I think the thing is that listening to Elon Musk and understanding what singularity actually is, all it is that it's going to get to a point where we can't necessarily control it. Now that is scary in itself, but I think
we're a long way off from that.
I think we're a long way off. Understanding now a lot more about voice and understanding what the capabilities are, I think we are.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. Who was that? It was an Arthur C. Clarke quote, I think. Right, and I think that's what worries people because they don't know how it's working. But I think as I'm a positive person, right? I'm generally optimistic. I think as a species, I think we'll deal with this in an ethical, responsible way eventually. Like we do kind of mess up technology, and the climate crisis we've got going on right now, it's being caused by industrialization, whatever. I think it's the same with AI. We'll push it as far as we can, and because it's predominantly a commercial technology, we'll push it to make as much money out of it as we can before we realize how we should deal with it in an ethical kind of humanistic way. The worry is that we don't do it in time, and the singularity happens, and it's too late by that point. We don't know. We just don't know how we're going to deal with this. We're basically bringing an entity into existence that's like us. We've never done this before. We don't know how this works, right? It may be completely symbiotic. We may end up having the most amazing new species on the planet. That are that recognize our limitations and we recognize their limitations, and we work together as if we had like a gorillas super evolved or something, and we could talk and work with them. It could be a completely friendly, a symbiotic relationship, or it could be Skynet. I just don't think the Skynet.
We're just going to have to hope Will Smith is still around to fight them all.
Well, I think films have kind of
that's been the thing that's really lit the fire, right?
Yeah, so when people sort of say that it's going to be, and Google didn't help the situation, because the day I was speaking to someone about it, I got an email saying, hey, Google Action developer, we're now updating some actions to WaveNet. And I just text him saying, we're here, mate, we're here. But again, I just say, look, Alexa and Google, it might seem like it, but it doesn't have consciousness. Like we're far off.
Tone. As soon as it starts understanding tone and emotion, to when someone asks a question and they're in pain, and you can hear that, or they're sad, or they're happy, and then you can start working those things out. That's when it gets a tiny bit more scary for me, because then it's starting to think like a human.
That's here now. So there are, in 2 or 3 seconds, a technology that in 2 or 3 seconds can understand 15 different human emotions. So as you start speaking to it, it will know what kind of frame of mind, what kind of mood you're in, and be able to respond to it in that way. But these are all tiny little incremental steps towards something that we were such a long way off from a human level of consciousness that we got lots of time to work on this. I think Elon Musk, he's a super visionary guy. Obviously, he knows how this technology works, and he knows how humans going to interact with it. So if he's worried, then actually that for me raises a little red flag, because he knows how these things work. But I think we're so far away from any of that stuff yet.
I think we are far away, but I do think so he kind of explained in the Joe Rogan podcast about, it's time to now think about regulation. It might be further on in the future, but when we think about how long it took to have seatbelts in the car, it took 10 years, and it was just an obvious solution. This should be the law. Every car should have a seatbelt. It's just obvious, but it took us 10 years to do that. We should now be thinking about how to regulate this. And
but it's exactly the same arguments you could say as things like genetic cloning, right? Like the technology is in place right now to clone an exact copy of you, but it hasn't happened because there's regulation, there's ethical considerations. It just generally, the humans don't like the idea of it, right? So it hasn't happened yet. Well, it has, and where it has happened, it's been massively negatively reported.
Moving on to AR, which is something that Aaron and I especially talked about for the last 3 or 4 years as people doing it for doing its sake. And I think lots of these emerging platforms have part of that, and I think influencer marketing had it in the early days. People just doing it because and want to be different, or want to be doing something different, or want to be seen to be clever or ahead of their time, whatever. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can bucket yourself into. AR was just one of those ones where, in marketing sense, or it sometimes was used very cleverly, but in a human sense, it was providing no value at all. It was just actually moving someone out of the way of doing something faster. What are your perceptions of AR, and what have you seen that's actually, besides the marketing stuff, and I think Burger King did some amazing stuff on AR in the last 12 months around the McDonald's billboards and being able to get a Whopper for basically for free if you burnt down a McDonald's billboard. I thought that's brilliant, but really no use to anybody. Like, voice I see as a use. AI has a use, and lots of these emerging platforms, LinkedIn, if I see it still as an emerging platform, has a use. It connects people to the business world. I still haven't seen the use case for AR.
It's fun, okay? And
but fun doesn't really travel. It gets to a point that it doesn't travel.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the challenge with it, and that's why I don't think we focus as much on it. Because I don't think there isn't the value there ultimately. It's fun, and you can see, like the wizarding world of Harry Potter that's come out recently. It's the spin-off from Pokemon Go. Obviously, 2 incredibly popular experiences that you could only do via AR, but they are games, and Pokemon Go has obviously had a lifespan, and Niantic have had to go to something else, and that's where Harry Potter's, and that's going to have a lifespan as well, and then it's going to fade.
What about mixed reality? You told me the example of the HoloLens.
So for me, the more interesting thing with AR is going back to the utility of it and the business impact it could have, rather than the consumer impact. And I think Microsoft have seen this as well. So the HoloLens, Microsoft have retracted from the consumer space altogether, and they're not thinking about selling their mixed reality headsets into consumers now, gaming or otherwise. They're focusing on the business market and how it can help doctors. So you can have 2 doctors in completely separate locations who can both collaborate on the same bit of surgery, pointing to different bits of the body or whatever, and really help both of them from both sides, which you can't do.
Health and illness seems to be one of the first things that always gets solved by one of these technologies. AR, example, voice, big innovation, an NHS thing, in terms of a newsworthy innovation that gets people sitting up and listening. I remember the app side of things, fitness, and the health app was massive news when that came out, when it could register your heart rate, it could tell you how many steps look how massive the step counter is now, because everyone was using, was it pedometer on their wrist? They were crap. Everyone knew they were crap, but still liked the side of it. But now the phone actually does it quite accurately, and it records it, and it works. Like, health is a main driver into new technology. Maybe because the human race actually takes it seriously when it can help them.
It's an obvious problem, though.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone has a problem.
Yeah, exactly. If there's, if we look at technology, the first things that where it succeeds is if it solves a problem, and that's obviously health is a natural problem.
And the healthcare industry is such a big business, right? So much money behind solving these problems. Such a valuable problem.
And it's so PRable, I suppose. So it also gets the mainstream news. But that's a good example. Have you got any other examples on AR being useful? Because I saw there was a gig in Korea over the last week where they had mixed reality, hologram sort of performance, and I'm not sure if you categorize hologram stuff into AR, but it kind of is, or at least the consumer perception is that it's the same.
Sure.
That was interesting. I like the idea of being able to have a face-to-face meeting with an actual person, even if they're in Australia, rather than on a screen. I don't like video calls at all. I think I actually really go out my way to avoid them, because I either do a phone call or I do a face-to-face, because the video is just a horrible hybrid that you don't really get any value from.
Yeah.
I just hate doing calls on my laptop versus a phone. But if I could put my phone down, my laptop down, and then they were projected out as a human being, and I could read body language. I think body language is the main reason why I don't like it. I either don't want to know anything, or I want to see everything. And I think that's where it can help in the business world. It's actually put people in meetings.
Yeah, I think that another thing to think about is with the HoloLens, if you're working on something and there's more information that you need, if you had a HoloLens and you could have that information whilst you're actually doing the work. So let's say that you're a mechanic and you wanted to understand what the, you're testing, I'm not a mechanic, but there might be some schematics that you might want overlaid over, or you want to know how it's performing in real time rather than having to look at something and going back.
Where the parts that you took out all were before, and then it labels it, and then you can just go and put it back exactly how it was.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
So something like that's just an activity that you're doing where you could use more information right then and there live, as opposed to doing something like, especially if you're testing something. You're testing something and then you've got to go back, see the results. But if you can test that in real time and you can see, whether things are being success and tune it. I mean, I'm thinking of mechanics, but this could be, again, this could go back to surgery as well. If you've got, a heart monitor, you can see all the different, the stats or the, I can't remember what they're called, but if you can see that live whilst you're doing something.
I'm not technical either. The beeps.
The beeps.
We've all seen it on hold.
Yeah. Exactly. So you can respond incredibly quickly.
And the point there is that it's contextual as well.
Yes.
So the system knows what you're looking at and it can react to it. The only thing other than the business applications of mixed reality that I think are really interesting, we did an experiment at Just Eat where we had sushi. So you could order sushi in mixed reality, right? Because the biggest problem with sushi is you don't really know what you're ordering or what it is or what size it is or how much you really want to buy. And you either overorder or you underorder, right? And if you're ordering in a group, it's even more difficult. But imagine if we had a VR version of the sushi in front of us. When I look at it, a little flag comes out and it tells me what's in it, whether I've got allergies or intolerances that I can't take or whatever. And then I can actually pick it up and put it on a plate. And you have an actual sized plate that you can put your sushi onto. And then you literally just take that plate and you put it on the virtual checkout and it gets bought for you and then it arrives.
Yeah, there's a restaurant in London called Inamo. It's got two restaurants, one in Covent Garden, one in Regent Street. And it has, it's projector. So instead of being, its next step would be AR, VR, whatever. But every single plate has a projector above it so that you can swipe and see exactly what you're getting.
Yeah.
And it's really nice.
Yeah.
Because I think in a world where we've taken food to an extreme, like in terms of what ingredients go in and what it looks like, and actually 90% of the reason you buy something now in terms of food is because of how it looks. Instagram's taken that into a whole new level. And actually we work with quite a lot of restaurants in actually changing their menu and changing their restaurant layout for Instagram, not just do their marketing, because it's as important to get the message out there on the food level as it is to get people sat down in the first place. And I did a podcast with Mark McCulloch, who's like a super foodie marketer and worked at Yo Sushi and did loads of different things for loads of different brands, was Pret, head of marketing. And he said an amazing quote that I've repeated a few times, is that you're no longer serving a table for 3, you're serving a table for 3,000. And that really hit home about the presentation side of things. And I think AR in some way can help that, people being able to see the menu and actually see what it is. I think it's a great example. And sushis are the ultimate example because no one fucking knows what they're ordering.
This is it, right? But for me, it can be more than just about the food then as well. It's the provenance. I want to know where the ingredients for this food came from. So in AR, I can explode that little bit of nori out or whatever, and I can see where all the different bits came from, what their history is, what their provenance is. Is it locally sourced? While I'm choosing what I want to eat, or maybe even while I'm eating.
I think it might also solve the perennial takeaway issue of people just ordering the same shit every single time, because they don't really know what they're getting if they order something new.
Yeah.
But if they can see it and they go, oh, it's the right color, or with curry, I'm thinking everyone just orders the same thing because they're quite scared as to what the next thing is. Is it going to be too hot? Does it look red? Yep. All these different things, especially with starters as well. People just stick to their order, but actually there's loads of things on a Chinese menu and a Indian menu I know I'd love, but I'm just too scared to find out exactly what it looks like. Yeah. Because you've invested so much before it arrives and you get so excited as to when it's going to come that you just don't want to be let down. Yeah. And I think being able to see it beforehand would be really, really interesting, especially in 3D, because you can see how they present it, and that's very important now. This has been really, really interesting, guys. I've really enjoyed learning about all these different things. I'm not hugely clued up on it, so it's been really interesting to hear the voice angle, especially, and the different bits we've touched on since the AI and AR too. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you coming down.
Thanks for inviting us along, man. It's been so exciting.
Bristol. It's exciting. You got a busy day for the rest of the day? Back to back. Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. No, but it's been great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been super interesting hearing the parallels there are between what you guys are doing with influencer marketing and what we're trying to do with emerging tech as well.
So we were an emerging marketing platform 4 years ago. We're just now, we're not quite the mainstream, but we're getting towards the mainstream where everyone's sat up and took notice now. And it feels like voice, more than any of the others, is 18 months into our 4-year journey, and people are starting to wake up, but they still don't really know what it means. They're in that phase. They know they should be doing something, but they don't really know what it is. And then you'll find in the next 18 months, when it gets to that 3-year mark, in our journey, where people just go, okay, I need to do this, and I need someone who knows their shit in order to do this quick. Yep. And that's the exciting thing. That's the exciting time. You just got to ride the wave. Yeah. And keep preaching, keep making content, educating people about what it is and why you should do it. I think I've learned more in the last hour than I've ever had from reading stuff. And I think both of you are good talkers and have understanding as to what it is, much deeper than most people in the UK. So I think creating content is going to be very, very valuable to you guys as well.
Cool, man. We're going to keep doing it. Keep banging the drum.
Keep banging the drum. Got it. We had an amazing... we had an amazing guest on a vlog 2-3 days ago. Casey Neistat is the biggest vlogger in the on YouTube.
Love that guy.
10.5 million subs. He was on the vlog in New York with Frankie, and Frank asked him, "What's the biggest advice to people that are creating content?" And he said, "Patience." And it's true. He said, "Amazing analogy. You're like frogs in boiling water, and it just gets 1% hotter every single time. You just got to keep feeding the 1%. You just got to keep going because it's so incremental." And I think over the last few weeks we've felt it. More prevalently than ever before. And you just got to work away and got to keep slogging away. We're 120 days in, so it's still quite early doors. Yeah. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you. Thanks very much for listening. There's the podcast on YouTube if you're watching. If you're listening, it's on all the other different listening platforms that podcasts can be distributed on. I'll make sure that Matt gets it up on all of those. And if you haven't listened to any of the others, then please do go back. There's been some fantastic podcast guests over the last few weeks, from football club owners to amazing marketers who've headed up incredible brands. So do go back and listen to those. And we'll see you next time or on the daily vlog on LinkedIn. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon.